Some series make me curious about what will happen next. Some make me emotionally invested in the characters. But every once in a while, there comes a series that makes me forget I'm watching one. Instead, it feels like I'm quietly reading someone's diary. Every episode feels like another page. Every scene change feels like gently turning that page. And before I know it, I'm no longer waiting for the next plot twist. I'm simply spending another day inside someone else's life. That's exactly how I felt while watching Memoir of Rati. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think the storyline itself is particularly groundbreaking. Two people from different social classes fall in love, families oppose the relationship, they endure separation, they suffer, and eventually, they find their way back to each other. We've seen stories like this before, but somehow, Memoir of Rati never felt ordinary, because it isn't the plot that stayed with me. It was the world surrounding it. Old Siam, its traditions, its customs, its quiet rhythm, the strict social hierarchy that shaped every decision. The rivers, the temples, the peaceful afternoons that seemed to move at their own pace. People looked into each other's eyes instead of at a screen. Conversations weren't interrupted by notifications. Time seemed to belong to the people living it. There is one place in particular that stayed with me. The stream where Rati quietly sits beneath a large tree, reading a book. Just a book. Flowing water, the shade of an old tree, and silence. Maybe that's why I loved it so much, because for a moment, it reminded me that peace doesn't always come from having more. Sometimes, peace comes from needing less. And I think that's why Memoir of Rati never felt like I was watching a television series. It felt like I had quietly stepped into another life, one page at a time. Thee and Rati, they made me think about something I rarely ask while watching a drama. What makes someone keep waiting when they have no reason to believe the other person will ever come back? For 5 years, Thee waited. For 5 years. Rati carried the hope of returning to Siam. Neither of them knew what the other was doing. There were no letters they could rely on, no phone calls, no messages, no way of knowing whether the other person had already moved on. Yet somehow, they kept believing. I kept asking myself, if I were in their place, could I do the same? Honestly, I don't think I could. Maybe that's why their love impressed me. Not because it was passionate, but because it was patient. But Thee and Rati lived in a world where loving someone also meant learning how to wait, not for days, not for weeks, but for years, without certainty, without promises, just faith. And maybe that's why their relationship feels inseparable from the time period itself. If this story happened in modern Bangkok, Thee could simply send a message. Rati could make a phone call. 5 years would never feel like 5 years. The waiting would disappear. And with it, it would be part of the story's soul. That's why I don't think Memoir of Rati is only a romance. It's also a story about time, about how time tests love, strengthens it, and sometimes becomes part of the love itself. There's one thing I also want to be honest about. Even though the ending is a happy one, I personally didn't love it, not because happy endings are bad. I actually enjoy happy endings, but because of the world this story created. Old Siam was a society built on tradition, on social hierarchy, on expectations that were incredibly difficult to escape. Because the series portrayed that world so convincingly, part of me believed their love would have to pay a greater price. I even found myself imagining a bittersweet ending instead, not because I wanted them to suffer, but because it felt more consistent with the reality of that era. Even if I imagined a different ending, I can't deny one simple truth. Watching them finally find each other again still made me smile. Because sometimes, after witnessing so much waiting, we quietly hope life chooses kindness. If Thee and Rati taught me how powerful waiting can be, Mek and Dek reminded me that sometimes the people who change our lives are the ones we never expected to meet. To be honest, they became my favorite couple in the entire series. In fact, they were the reason I started watching Memoir of Rati in the first place. I've always loved Au and Boom's chemistry. They're natural, comfortable, nothing between them ever feels forced. And somehow, that same chemistry quietly found its way into Mek and Desh. But what truly captured my heart wasn't their romance. It was the people they were. Mek is probably the most compelling character in the entire series for me. He's poor. He pulls a rickshaw to make a living. He'll do any honest work if it means earning a little more money. Not because he's greedy, because he has a dream so simple that it became extraordinary. He wants to buy back his house, that's all. For many years, that single dream kept him moving forward. He never stopped believing. He never complained that life was unfair. He simply woke up each day and kept walking toward it, one step at a time. There's something deeply admirable about that kind of determination. Because dreams aren't always measured by how big they are. Sometimes they're measured by how long we're willing to protect them. Then there's Dek, someone born into a world completely opposite from Mek's. He has wealth, education, status, a future already prepared for him. Yet, none of those things ever made him arrogant. What I love most about Dek is his humility. He never treats Mek like someone beneath him. He listens, he learns, he respects. He doesn't see a rickshaw puller, he sees a person, and I think that's what makes him such a beautiful character. Dek doesn't reject his social class, he simply refuses to let it decide who deserves his kindness. There's one conversation between them that stayed with me long after the series ended. Mek asks Dek, "You already have wealth and status. Why do you still practice Muay Thai?" Dek smiles and answers, "Because I already have everything, so I want what I don't have." Mek quietly replies, "It's different for me. I don't have anything. I have to work for everything. Whatever pays, I'll do." When I first heard those lines, I realized they weren't really talking about Muay Thai. They were talking about life. For Mek, money means freedom. For Dek, freedom means choosing something that money can't buy. One has freedom but longs for purpose. The other has purpose but longs for security. They are both searching for something missing. Just different things. And somehow, that's exactly why they understand each other. I also love the small moments between them. The moments that didn't need dramatic dialogue, like when Dek patiently teaches Mek French, it's such a simple scene. But underneath it, there's quiet respect. Dek never laughs at what Mek doesn't know. He simply shares what he has. And Mek never feels ashamed to learn. Watching those scenes made me realize something. The best teachers are never the ones who make us feel small. They're the ones who quietly convince us we're capable of becoming more. Then there's the shrine scene. Honestly, I couldn't stop smiling. The two of them visit a shrine where local people believe couples come to pray together. Neither of them thinks much about it. They're simply enjoying each other's company. They sit comfortably beside one another, then another couple arrives and unknowingly sits between them. The two of them lean back to look at each other, shuffle forward a little, and continue praying together as though nothing unusual has happened. It's hilarious, but it's also strangely beautiful. Because by that point, their friendship has already reached something precious, comfort. The kind of comfort where you stop worrying about how things look. You simply enjoy being beside that person. And I think that's one of the purest forms of intimacy. Sometimes I found myself thinking, maybe Dek entering Mek's life was a reward, not because miracles suddenly happen to good people, but because people like Dek often arrive after someone has already spent years refusing to give up. Dek didn't build Mek's dream. Mek protected that dream for many years. Dek simply became the person who helped him open a door he couldn't unlock by himself. And I think that's one of the most hopeful messages this series quietly offers. Sometimes, life doesn't reward us by making the journey easier. Sometimes, it rewards us by sending the right person to walk beside us. Before I move on, there's one more thing I have to mention, the OST, Wishes Come True. Sometimes an OST becomes memorable because it's beautiful, but sometimes it becomes unforgettable because it understands the characters better than we do. There's one lyric that stayed with me. Just like a flower from the sky bows down to kiss the ground, just like a ladder from the earth can climb to heaven's crown. The more I listened to it, the more I saw Mek and Dek. Dek is like the flower, born high above. yet humble enough to bow toward the ground. Mek is like the ladder, starting from the ground, yet never stopping his climb toward the life he dreams of. Neither of them changes who they are. One gently reaches down, the other bravely keeps climbing, and somewhere in the middle, they find each other. Then the song quietly says, "All it takes is hearts that dare to reach across and care." I love that word, across social class, across expectations, across the invisible walls people spend their whole lives believing cannot be crossed. When the song finally reaches the line, "Because now I have you," it no longer feels like a love confession, it feels like gratitude. The kind of gratitude you feel after meeting someone who quietly changes the direction of your life. And honestly, I can't think of a more beautiful song for these two. One reason Memoir of Rati stayed with me is because it never felt like it was rushing toward the next big moment. It allowed silence to exist. It allowed people to simply sit together, walk together, read together, wait together. As someone who has worked in film production, I know how tempting it is to keep pushing the story forward, to make every scene important. But sometimes, the scenes we remember most aren't the ones where everything changes. They're the ones where nothing happens at all. A quiet conversation, someone reading beneath a tree, the sound of water flowing beside a stream, two friends sharing the same road home. Those moments don't exist to move the plot. They exist to help us fall in love with the world. And once we love that world, every goodbye becomes more painful. I know this series won't be everyone's favorite. Some people may find the story too familiar, some may wish the pacing were faster. And honestly, I completely understand. But for me, Memoir of Rati was never about chasing excitement. It was about spending time in a world I wasn't ready to leave. It felt less like finishing a television series and more like closing the final page of a diary, the kind of diary you don't close because you've lost interest. You close it because there are no more pages left. And somehow, that's a much sadder feeling. Thank you, Memoir of Rati, for letting me spend a little while in your world, and thank you for joining me here at Scene and Soul. Until next time, take care and don't forget to enjoy the ordinary days. One day, they'll become the pages you miss the most. Exploring the stories that stay with us, one scene at a time. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again in another scene and another soul.